Blasting, billowing, bursting forth with the power of 10 billion butterfly sneezes.
This is Wine, Money, and Song. And if you want an insider's view of the wine industry, and if you're interested in learning about wines in different wine areas, please subscribe. So we're coming to the end of the year, and I'm tasting a lot of wines recently, and I'm pulling out things out of my cellar, which I like to do during the holidays. So this episode's going to be a tasting episode on 6 wines that I've tasted recently, which came out of my wine cellar. And the next episode's going to be my list of the 10 best wines of 2024. So look forward to that next episode. Just a little comment about the lists that have been circulating through the Wine Spectator, the Wine Enthusiast, James Suckling, Jeb Dunnick, all those. And I've gone through them, and, you know, it's opinion. The problem I have with those lists is there's very few redundancies in those 100 best wines. There's only a few wines that someone else recommends, that someone, you know, that another wine critic says is one of the best wines of the year, and it doesn't even appear in anyone else's. And to me, it's so subjective, and each person has different likes and dislikes. So when you read that, if there's 5 lists out there, that means there's 500 wines. So in a way, it's the 500 best wines, not the best 100. And it's good to go through. It's good to hear other people's opinion. But the thing that puts me off on some of these lists, they go through it, and I'm not saying that the wine is not high quality and it's not special, but they say it's a good value, and it's $175. Tell a family who has 2 kids to feed, and you know, grocery money's tight, and they like to have a glass of wine now and then. $175 is a good value. I just don't see that. I just don't see that. It's not a world that many people walk in. And what Wine, Money, and Song tries to do always is to have a mind on value. Now, this next episode is things that I'm pulled out of my cellar, as I said. And a lot of these wines are pretty expensive. But I like to do that once in a while to reaffirm I'm a person from the wine business and over 40 years of experience in the wine industry and 50 years drinking wines. So I'm pulling these out, and these were much lower in price back then, and some of them are high now. But I'm going to give you some of the views on the things I've had recently. Now, the first wine is Heitz, Martha's Vineyard, Heitz Cellars, and it's the 2002 vintage. Now, Martha's Vineyard, well, first of all, Joe Heitz is one of the pioneers of California, Napa Valley. He was in there in the late 60s, early 70s, and he made some of the greatest Cabernets there. But the story about Martha's Vineyard itself, this is a vineyard that Tom May owns and has been selling the grapes to the Heitz winery forever, and it's a very unique vineyard. It produces a wine, a very classical style of wine, and it has a mintiness to it that you get from certain soils. And Martha's Vineyard ages a long period of time. Now, I had this wine with some of my wine collector friends, and 2002 vintage was a middling vintage for California. Wasn't a great vintage, but this wine, the one thing I say about Heitz Martha's Vineyard, it's a very elegant style. It's not a big over-the-top style like a lot of the Napa Valley mountain wines can be. a lot of extraction, a lot of alcohol, and full-bodied. This is a more elegant, medium-bodied wine, really nuanced, current flavors, and really, really refined. And it has great length. And, the wine's 22 years old, and it was just classic. And it's not over the top, and a lot of the mint is already aged out of the wine, but you get a hint of it. But beautiful current flavors and well made. The second wine is Cheval Andes, which is a partnership between Cheval Blanc of Saint-Emilion, considered to be a right bank first growth, very, very famous and very expensive, and Argentine company, and it's a partnership between them, and they own 2 vineyards and they blend them together, and the winemaking prowess of Cheval Blanc goes right into this. Now, this is the 2010. So this is, this is a wine that's coming on 15 years of age, so it's well aged. But it's made in a Bordeaux style. A lot of the Argentine wines can be very big and really mouth-filling and very, very ripe and smack you in the face with a lot of flavor. Just remember, though, Argentina is the 5th largest producer of wines. And the story behind this is to understand this is half Malbec and 30% Cabernet and 20% Petit Bordeaux, which is more of a Bordeaux blend. And you don't see that in Argentina a lot. So the Cheval Blanc people go in there and they make the wine. Now, how did Bordeaux wine producers influence Argentine wine industry? Well, back when phylloxera occurred in Europe, when all the vines were wiped out by phylloxera, that beetle louse that eats the roots, and basically all of the vines had to be uprooted, replanted, or grafted over to other phylloxera-proof roots. And there were years where there were no wines coming out of Europe. So all the winemakers went to Chile and went to Argentina, and they took their vines with them, planted the vines, and they started making wines there. And the key thing about that, all of the wines now in France, basically 99.8% of all the wines are grafted over vines. But in Argentina and Chile, a lot of the wines are pre-phylloxera, meaning it's the old ancient vines that were used in Bordeaux, and they transferred them over there. And phylloxera has never hit Argentina, because of the mountain range. The beetles never survived the trip. So these are very, very old vines. I think these vines from 1921 or something like that. So they made a wine much like Bordeaux, and the influence in the whole wine industry there is greatly influenced by the Bordeaux winemakers. This wine is more elegant than most Argentine wines are. As I said, it's half Malbec and 30% Merlot. Cabernet, and 20% Petit Verdot. And it's medium-bodied, it's not big, very refined, it has great length. And if I was tasting this blindly, I would think it's a Bordeaux. And not many wines I would say that about Argentine wines. Okay, on to the next wine. Is a Chateauneuf de Pape from the 2009 vintage. It's Viau Telegraph. Beaucastel and Viau Telegraph are the most prestigious or best known Chateauneuf de Papes from the southern Rhone. This is owned by the Brunier family. I used to sell some of their other wines, Brunier. And Viau Telegraph is on the hill of Lake Croix. Crow. And the 2009 vintage was a very good vintage. This wine's very spicy. It's full. Chateauneuf started 15, 16%, so it's a big wine. This wine's a spice box. It's very spicy, very, very rich, and it's a combination of you're allowed 11 different grape types in Chateauneuf de Pape, and this one has most of that blend. It's very, very good, but it's hard for me to imagine paying $115 for this when I can buy other wines like Pegao, and excellent wines and almost half the price. It's very good, but it's very expensive. The fourth wine is Bedrock Carlisle Vineyard Zinfandel 2019. Now, I consider Ridge, Carlisle themselves, and Bedrock the best producers of Zinfandel in California. And this comes from a vineyard owned by Carlisle, and he sells out to a certain amount of other producers, other wineries who use the grapes and make their own Zinfandel. And Bedrock is a great producer of California wines, Zinfandel, Syrahs, and red mixed black varieties. And this wine is really well made, very classical California Zinfandel, old school. It's old school. And a wine like this is $30 or $40. Excellent Zinfandel. The next wine is a Barolo from Italy, Brovia, and it's Valero Vineyard, 2010. So it's a 15-year-old Barolo, and I own some 2010, some 2016 of this producer, 2015, and I'm going to buy some 21s soon. And I wasn't knocked out by this. And 2010 is a great vintage in Barolo. And my experience with Brovia is very good. And, I like the wines. This one underwhelmed me a little bit. I don't know if it's in a stage. It was more balsamic rather than roses and tar. And it was at a stage right now that maybe it's just going through a dumb stage. Because Barolo ages a long time. So we'll have to go back and taste it. It was very good, but more so balsamic than anything. And the last wine is a Barbaresco 2019 Produttori de Barbaresco, which is a co-op. And my humble opinion, they produce one of the best Barbarescos, and they have multiple, like 6 or 7 other crews that they make separate vineyards of that are excellent. But this is their Normale, which is produced from all the vineyards. And in certain vintages, this can be a great buy. And 2019 is a great buy. If you want roses, if you want tar, if you and beautiful cherry-like fruit, and it's less than $40 a bottle. Outstanding wine, and look for Produttori de Barbaresco. To me, right on top, and it used to be a lot less money, but still, it's a good value at where it is now. So hopefully you got something out of this, and remember the next episode is going to be the 10 top wines of 2024.